What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Stargirl video. We've had some mind-blowing revelations this episode that is clearly one of the best of the season so far in a series that has been consistent non-stop. And these videos are replacing my weekly Snowpiercer videos, as that show has now sadly ended. So this was a direct continuation on from last week's episode, as we learned the origin of Brainwave and how Henry Jr. started to learn that he had powers and managed to actually start to use them. Before we pick up on the cliffhanger, we see 2 years ago in Blue Valley as we see Pat and Barbara in a diner and they meet for the first time. She is selling her mother's house as Pat is researching something in Blue Valley, which makes sense as he's still sore after the death of the JSA, and they share a banana split. It was pretty cool seeing them meet for the first time in one hell of a wholesome scene. Now we pick up in the basement as Barbara finds Pat and Courtney with the cosmic rod. Pat explains that just what happened and how he was Stripe and worked with Starman, but the conversation soon moves to how Courtney believes that Starman is actually her father, something we have actually had Pat come to sort of agree with over the episodes. And oh man, I do hope that we get more Joel McHale, especially as I am on a community binge right now and did a community video yesterday, which you can check out on my channel. I'll include it in the description below. Instantly, Barbara does not believe this at all and thinks it's all sort of insane and shouts at everyone in the basement. She's more angry that Courtney was put in danger and was lied to about what happened when Courtney had to go to hospital, which absolutely makes sense. Although the thing that she does actually sink in is how Jordan is actually Icicle, and she asks Pat to leave and starts to have plans to leave Blue Valley for safety. We then cut to Brainwave as he's woken from his coma and has forgotten the last 10 years and has no idea why he's in Nebraska, as Henry Jr. reveals that Mary, his mother and Brainwave's wife, has sadly died, and this seems to hit him like a ton of bricks because he's forgotten everything. With this revelation, Henry Jr. shows that he has the same power as his father, and his father asks how he was trained, but we then cut to him sleeping, and Henry Jr. hears his mother's name in Brainwave's dreams and learns how she drowned, which is incredibly dark in a very dialogue-heavy episode. I didn't really enjoy last week's episode just as much because there was just so much around just a couple of locations, but it actually sets up this episode, which was really, really good. Henry Jr. goes back to more of Brainwave's tapes chronicling his life of being generally bad. I don't know about you, but I find it really weird that a criminal would have had thousands of VHS tapes, basically having vlogs chronicling his life. Very small brain for the big brain. He learns that when meeting Mary, well, Brainwave sort of questioned what he was doing, and well, he didn't really kind of agree sort of fully with what the Injustice Society were doing. So Icicle, being the absolute douchebag that he is, lured the JSA to him, and he subsequently killed them like we saw at the start of the season. But this is a problem because this is the first major bombshell of the episode, because it's revealed that Mary is actually the sister of Starman. This makes Henry Jr. related to Stargirl. So I would not have expected that at all coming at the start of the season, but it was really, really awesome. I really liked that reveal there. And interestingly, she is also a comic book character, Mary Pemberton, the girl of 1,000 gimmicks who fought alongside Stripesy, but that was in the comics and it's changed a bit here. However, here in the show, this does mean that Henry Jr. is the cousin of Stargirl, so that's a big thing there. Now, Icicle actually comes to visit the awoken Brainwave and explains just how Dr. Ito's machine is working, and they just need Brainwave to be the final catalyst to mind control 6 states and control the Heartland and then subsequently the country, when the cosmic staff takes it upon itself to go and attack them both, but it's stopped by Brainwave and then frozen by Icicle in a double whammy. Now, Henry Jr. sees this and realizes that they are both evil, and he hides, setting up the rest of his whole redemption arc in this episode. Now, Pat is actually at the pit stop and poor old Courtney reveals that she's having to leave the town and the house is being sold, and well, she's actually lost the cosmic staff. And then later she runs into Henry and they finally realise that they are family as he reads her mind, which is very, very interesting, albeit a bit coincidental there for my opinion. Now all the while, Barbara is doing her own research into JSA and Starman. She sends an email to Sam Curtis, Courtney's father, which is setting up the big reveal of, well, her father, which is going to come in the next few episodes, I would expect, and possibly next episode as early as it can be, as I discuss next episodes at the end of this video. Now, this is curious because she actually gets a reply, so they expect that to come out next episode. But Barbara is visited by Icicle and his weird parents as they think they're being smart by speaking their native tongue, but it's recorded by Barbara and transcribed into English as it's revealed once and for all he is evil. Yeah, I guess Barbara needed a bit more than the word of her loved ones. The JSA then decide once and for all to go to the lair of the Injustice Society as our man heads straight for Solomon Grundy and tries to get Grundy out and fight him as revenge for his parents' death. I thought we would possibly see the two fight, but to be honest, Grundy is really OP here, so it's a cool setup for later in the season. Them two fighting would be a bit too much now, and imagine he would absolutely destroy Beth. Now, Courtney and Kat head to the main atrium to fight the followers of the Dragon King, which was a very, very cool fight. And I have to say, the action this season has been amazing. Brainwave is revealed to be actually fine this whole time, which is what I gathered from what he said, as he's being put back to how he was, as Henry confronts him, and Dragon King hood is actually taken off, which is a bit similar to the Shining Knight comic when he takes off the hood and the lizard dragon face is revealed. Funny as next week is actually titled Shining Knight. The team turn tail and go to escape as this is far too much for them, but Henry Jr. decides enough is enough as he sacrifices himself and saves Courtney in a very, very touching moment. But this is where the second big reveal occurs, as we learn that Brainwave actually killed his wife, much to Henry Jr.'s dismay, as well his life is a total lie. This was a surprise, as really, this is some next level evil stuff going down as the father and son actually confront each other. Again, this is a redemption as Henry Jr. apologises for what he did to the cat, and the acting here was totally superb. Now, we did think that Brainwave would be the key to the fall of the Injustice Society, and I do wonder if Henry has survived or not. I'm probably going to say he does, as I think Brainwave would simply want to keep him alive due to the fact that he's very powerful, much like himself, and not just because it's actually his son. I would imagine he'll do the whole trope of returning in the final battle to fight against the JSA, then he reveals who he is, and he fights against the Injustice Society. It's just, you can just tell that's coming. Now, overall, I did enjoy this episode. I thought it was really, really good, and the team facing off against the Injustice proper was really, really cool, and it's a kind of a litmus test for what's coming next as we have an interesting run to the finale, but we're going to learn more about Courtney's father and hopefully the JSA as a whole. Now, next week's synopsis actually says, a blast from the past, Courtney's life gets turned upside down when someone from her past arrives in Blue Valley. Meanwhile, Pat uncovers new information about the ISA's plan and Jordan makes a surprising discovery at work. So we will learn a hell of a lot about Courtney's past, but that doesn't necessarily mean it would be her father. But Pat learns more about the ISA's plan, which makes sense because he's sort of the tech guy, and Jordan will learn just who Barbara is, in my opinion. That's what I think is going to happen, because it's pretty dumb to use a work PC to find out who the father of your crime-fighting daughter is. However, that is it for this video, so please drop a like if you enjoyed it. Do consider subscribing with notifications on if you want to see more, and I'll see you soon, and goodbye.